Hello, and I think I'm live, guys. Let me take a look here. Give me 1 second. Make sure everything's up and ready. Can I see where the comments are? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Big day in the UFO world, right, guys? Alrighty. So we're gonna be posting, we're gonna have the entire video of or the press conference that's gonna be showed. Good morning, Judith. How you doing today? I see that there was an early comment. I don't know who's live, who's not, but either way, we're all waiting for the NASA science page to load up so we could actually get the report from, from this the UAP report that they've promised today. They have a lot of people involved. There's a lot of people who are part of this thing. Let's see. Let's see who's going to be. Let's see what news is reported. The truth is, I have no idea. Good morning, Trixie. So at the end of the day, we don't know. We know that the Mexico Congress thing turned out to be kind of a dumpster fire, right? We were hoping for something, something real, right? And the truth is, we don't know what NASA is going to say, because at the end of the day, NASA, if you're a believer and if you're to believe, some of the scientists that are out there, okay, they've been covering up the whole UAP phenomena for years, right? So are they going to continue to cover this up? And now you're going. Some of you might be asking, well, which astronauts have commented before? Well, Gordon Cooper was one of the astronauts. He was an Apollo astronaut, and this was a guy who, when he came back, he kind of was going full disclosure, right? And the full disclosure, he had some crazy things to say. One of them, and again, I don't want to say crazy. Let me rephrase that, guys. What Gordon Cooper had to say wasn't crazy. It was startling, right? He kind of mentioned that he saw things when he was in space. Then he came back, and this was a guy who he was a pilot, obviously, prior to working as an astronaut, like most astronauts are, unless you're a scientist and so on. And one of the things that he said was that when he was a pilot, he would see, UFOs. This is prior to joining NASA. And, the other thing that was that he said, which is kind of crazy, again, kind of crazy, not in a bad way, I'm not calling him crazy, is that at one point he was asked to go to Edwards Air Force Base. This is, back in the 50s when Eisenhower wasn't president. Okay. And he went to Edwards Air Force Base because there was a meeting between President Eisenhower and some kind of alien representative. And this is an astronaut who's gone on record to say this is what happened. So NASA, right? NASA has been, there's been a lot of talk, astronauts seeing things in space. There's during the live footage, sometimes NASA cuts off when weird anomalies show up, right? So again, let's see what NASA ends up revealing today. Again, I'm very curious. We got about 30 minutes before they go live. What I am looking to see here is the study. Okay, the study that's supposed to have been released now, and I'm not seeing. So just bear with me, guys, because they were supposed to release it literally right now at 6:30. And let's see if there's anything that's new here. Give me a second, guys. I'm trying to kind of go through this. So we're kind of doing this at the same time. They're going to release it to me or release it to everyone, and we're going to digest it here. It's crazy. I see that James Fox, I'm just going on X, aka Twitter. James Fox is already there. James Fox is the guy who did the great documentary, and I think I told you guys, if you guys were listening last night, the documentary called Phenomenon, Moment of Contact. He's a great director. He's there. He's at NASA setting up because he's expecting to ask Director Bill Nelson some questions. And look, Bill Nelson is a guy who was also an astronaut. He seems open. Again, very, you know, what are they going to say today? Who knows, right? The truth is, I don't know what they're going to say today. Is it going to be another nothing burger, or are they going to ask NASA, being part of the government? Are they just going to hold out their hands asking for more money from taxpayers, saying, yeah, you know what, maybe we do need to investigate this and we need more money, kind of like Oliver, can I have some more? So let's see what happens here. But now some people are asking exactly what is this they have an FAQ on their page, and I want to just kind of go through it a little bit. Will NASA be referring to UAP as unidentified anomalous phenomena? To be consistent with the National Defense Authorization Act, NASA will be calling UAP unidentified anomalous phenomena. Instead of unidentified aerial phenomena, NASA's UAP independent study will be largely focused on aerial phenomena. So, again, that's question number one that they're answering. Why is NASA involved with the study of UAP? Exploring the unknown in space and atmosphere is the heart of who we are. The nature of science is to better understand the unknown, but the language of scientists is data. The limited number of high-quality observation of unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAP, currently makes it impossible to draw scientific conclusions about the nature of such events. Without access to an extensive set of data, it is nearly impossible to verify or explain any observation. Thus, the focus of the study is to inform NASA what possible data could be collected in the future and shed light on UAP. NASA is commissioning the UAP independent study team to examine unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, from a scientific perspective, with the focus on how NASA can use data and tools of science to move our understanding forward. And it said that this is basically, when will the independence report be released to the public? Well, today is the day that they're supposed to be releasing, this information. What will the independent study report cover when it's released to the public? The UAP independent study team's main focus for the report is to come up with a way in which to evaluate and study UAPs going forward by using data, technology, and the tools of science. It's not a review of previous UAP incidents. The report will be published with the intent to inform NASA on what possible data could be collected in the future or how it can be collected to shed light on UAP. So again, they're not telling you they're going to walk out with two little boxes with aliens, kind of like Jaime Maussan did. Guys, that was a shit show. That was kind of embarrassing. Okay, but they will be showing or talking about what they're going to do to study this more, I guess, basically. So I don't think they're gonna, walk out with ET or some kind of Xeno alien type thing, Xeno creature walking out with them. That's not going to happen. I don't even think they're going to show any video or footage or anything like that. This is just NASA saying, listen, we did a study, and so far, this is what we got, and this is what we're going to need moving forward. So again, this is all part of this community to see what's going to be done. Again, let me see, because I'm still waiting for this report, and this report should be available before. Okay. Give me 1 second, folks. All right, hold on. We are just checking to see what's going on. Okay, they still haven't released it. They announced that they would release it early. Let me see, folks, if I could figure out where they posted this content. So just bear with me. Bear with me. Good morning, Tammy. I hope you're well. Now, what do you guys think NASA is going to show? Let me know. We should do some kind of polling here, but here, give me 1 second. I'm just trying to see if we could find what Um, yeah, it's supposed to. So it's going to go live in 30 minutes, but the actual study is supposed to be released now. By the way, the people who are going to be involved in the study is going to be nothing classified. Well, yeah, they're not going to release nothing. Absolutely. And here, let me share this one. Not aliens. Yep, yep, yep. Just bear with me here, guys. Extraordinary claims that require extraordinary evidence. You know, I like that. That's 100% true. All right, so people that are going to be involved with this is going to be NASA Administrator Bill Nelson, who was actually an astronaut. Nicole Fox, Associate Administrator, Science Mission Director at NASA headquarters in Washington. Dan Evans, Assistant Deputy Associate Administrator for Research for NASA Science Mission. David Spergel, President, Simons Foundation, and Chair of NASA's UAP Independent Study. So that's who's going to be there, and it's supposed to be a Q&A session. So I am really looking forward to this. But let's see here. Assessment of previous unidentified observations. I still don't see them releasing. Okay, let's take a look here. They still haven't released the study. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go, guys. We do have the final report. Let's there we go. The final report. Let's go. Table of contents, and I'm going to kind of stream through this real quickly. Okay, quickly, because we got about 20 minutes or so before it goes live, which we'll be posting the entire press conference here. You guys will be able to stay and watch it and take a look and see exactly what's going on. Okay. Let's see here. So table of contents. Let's it's a big report. Very some cool. Okay. The study of identified anomalous phenomena presents a unique scientific opportunity. This is directly from NASA, folks. Okay. It demands a rigorous evidence-based approach. Addressing the challenge will require new and robust data acquisition methods, advanced analysis techniques, a systematic reporting framework, and reducing reporting stigma. NASA, with its extensive expertise in these domains and global reputation for scientific openness, I don't know if that's entirely accurate, is an excellent position to contribute to UAP studies within the broader whole of government framework led by the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which is AARO. The problem with AARO, guys, is that they haven't been very forthcoming, right? They haven't been very forthcoming. So very curious to see what they're going to be really talking about here. Here, guys, let me just see something here. Let me just check something here. Making sure that we're not missing anything. The report's actually online. Yeah, so the entire report is online. I'm going to try to skim through this. This is the executive summary that I started reading for you. Again, some very cool. Okay, NASA. Okay, we got that. Next, the U.S. commercial remote sensing industry offers a potent mix of Earth-observing satellites that offer imagery at sub to several meter spatial resolution. Okay, all right. This is nothing important. Let me see. Framework. All right, just bear with me, guys. So on the report, they're showing a lot of things. Stuff like they're going to talk about some people see aurora borealis, and we get people get confused on this. Right, the forward. Okay, I'm going to read the forward from this report, which is unidentified anomalous phenomena. UAP are one of our planet's greatest mysteries. Observations of objects in our skies that cannot be identified as balloons, aircraft, or natural known phenomena have been spotted worldwide, yet there are limited high-quality observations. The nature of science is to explore the unknown, and data is the language scientists use to discover our universe's secrets. Despite numerous accounts and visuals, the absence of consistent, detailed, and curated observations means we do not presently have the body of data needed to make definitive scientific conclusions about UAP. Alrighty, so from the very beginning, guys, they're saying that they don't have enough evidence to confirm what UAP may be. They're going to be saying that, like I said, give me more money, right? Give me more money. At NASA, we use data and tools of science, okay, to explore the unknown in the atmosphere and space. In June 2022, NASA established an external independent study team to find a way we can use our open source data and resources to help shed light on the nature of future UAP. Much like a team of peer reviewers, NASA commissions independent study teams as a formal part of NASA's scientific process, and such team provides the agency external counsel on increased network perspective from esteemed scientific experts. Okay, I'm going to try to, yes, the team is made out of 16 experts, diverse backgrounds. Yep, we got that. We know that. Here, I'm trying to skim through it here real quickly. Again, they're going to show, if they show things, I think they're going to show us little stuff that people sometimes get confused with, like meteors and northern lights. Okay, here we go. Introduction. Recently, many credible witnesses, often military aviators, have reported seeing objects they did not recognize over U.S. airspace. Most of these events have since been explained, but a handful cannot be immediately identified as known human-made or natural phenomena. These events are now collectively referred to as UAP. All right, so yes, it's true. Sometimes, our military experts kind of say, shit, we don't know what this is. And, and then they figure out that it might've been something, maybe, a satellite or whatever. And, hoping here that they're saying that, the ones that they don't know are the ones that they're going to be researching more, right? So a vital part of NASA's mission is exploring the unknown using the rigorous process of scientific method. This means scrutinizing our assumptions and intuition, transparently and diligently collecting data, reproducing results, seeking independent evaluation, and finally, reaching a scientific consensus about the nature of an occurrence. The scientific method challenges us to solve problems by impartially evaluating our own ideas, by willing to be wrong, and by following the data. By the way, I'm good with that. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. Okay, here, guys, I'm gonna have you guys could still hear me. Also, I'm on. That's where we're going to go live when NASA goes live. That's going to be it right there. So you guys could still hear me. Let me know, please. Okay. It is increasingly clear that the majority of UAP observations can be attributed to known phenomena or occurrences. When it comes to studying such phenomena, our overreaching challenge is that the data needed to explain this anomalous sightings often do not exist. This includes eyewitness reports, which on their own can be interesting and compelling. Look, man, I'll tell you right now, I think we're going to be, let's see here. I'm going to try to skim this because it's a big report. Oh. Interesting. They're showing, and I'm going to leave this. I don't want to spoil. I think it'd be good because I'm sure that they're going to, some of these images that they're releasing, they're going to add some context to it. Okay. And they're showing some of the weather balloons that exist that do look like orbs, but this still doesn't explain stuff like the Tic Tac video or the gimbal and stuff like that, right, guys? Thank you, Judith. Thank you, Foxy Disco. All righty. Responsive statements of task. What type of scientific data currently collected and archived by NASA or civilian government entities should be synthesized and analyzed to potentially shed light on the nature of origins of UAP? NASA has a variety of existing and planned Earth and space observing assets, together with an extensive archive of historic and current data sets, which should be used to address the challenges of detecting or understanding UAP. NASA's fleet of Earth observing satellites collected the most data within the Earth system, yet they typically lack the spatial resolution to detect relatively small objects such as UAP. However, they still should play a powerful supporting role to determine the environmental conditions that coincide with UAP. For example, the advanced sensors on the Terra and Aqua missions should be directly utilized to retroactively probe the state of local Earth, ocean, and atmospheric conditions that are spatially and temporarily coincident with UAP initially detected via other methods. Thus, NASA can help determine whether specific environmental, again, I'm all for the science. Basically, they're going to make sure that what they're seeing doesn't coincide with some known weather phenomena, right? Okay, cool. All righty, I'm still down with this. I'm not hating this. Okay. There are other promising civilian capabilities that can be employed to scrutinize UAP assets, such as the NEXRAD Doppler radar network. All right, let me see if they're giving us anything. Yeah. Okay, guys, give me a second. I'm just trying to skim through this entire report, because right now what they're going to show is stuff that they've already released before. Like the Department of Defense have released a, I think the Aero Office on their channel, they've released footage of stuff that they've been able to explain already that some people in the past have believed. Okay, so do you guys remember the UAP, the sphere that Jeremy Corbell kind of showed over the Middle East? Okay, interesting that they're still calling this as an unidentified object. It wasn't a weather balloon. Okay, so they're still calling that specific UAP, well, that object, they're still calling it unidentified. Interesting. Now, on one of their pages here, and again, they're going to go live here probably, here, let me look at my phone. In 10 minutes, they'll be live, and we'll have it here live, guys. All right, we'll have it here live. It says, this is kind of creepy. Which scientific analysis techniques currently in production could be employed to assess the nature and origins of UAP? Which types of analysis techniques should be developed? This seems like a straight out of Terminator or the Matrix. It says artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning have proven to be essential tools for identifying rare occurrences with vast data sets. Obviously, AI is only as good as the folks that are programming it. So they're saying they're going to get AI involved. All righty, cool. We're going to have a Terminator going through this here. Give me 1 second. Again, I'm just trying to skim as much as possible before. Good morning, Will. What basic physical constraints can be placed on the nature of origins of UAP? Alrighty, observations of UAP to date are inconsistent and do not adhere to similar characteristics. As a consequence, it is difficult to put physical constraints on them at present, which provides a strong motivation for the rigorous evidence-based framework articulated in this report. The strongest physical constraints are not on the anomalous events, but on the conventional events. We know the range of velocities and accelerations that can be achieved by state-of-the-art platforms, drones, balloons, and planes. Deviations from this behavior, such as any characterized observations of velocities and accelerations outside the range, are scientifically interesting for UAP assessments and analysis. Okay, I'm good with this. The panel emphasizes that clearly determining distances is key to understanding and corroborating any claim anomalous high velocity and high acceleration events, a fact born out of Arrow's finding. But the vast majority of UAP have prosaic explanations. Okay, hold on a second. Let's see. Okay, I'm trying to skim this. They're going to talk about how they're going to be getting air traffic control, acquiring systems data to encourage us. Hold on a second. All right, guys, here, let me see. I'm going. Okay, here we go. Overall conclusions and recommendations. So you're going to know exactly what they're going to recommend at the end of this shit, okay? We recommend that NASA play a prominent role in the whole of government effort to understand UAP by leveraging its extensive expertise to contribute a comprehensive evidence-based approach that is rooted in scientific method. All right, give me 1 second, guys. Here's my science. I got to drink some coffee. At present, the detection of UAP. Okay, hold on a sec. We specifically recommend that NASA utilize existing and planned Earth observing assets to probe the local environmental conditions associated with UAP that are initially detected by other means. In doing so, NASA can directly probe whether certain environmental factors are coincident with known UAP. We further recommend that NASA explore enhancing collaborations with the U.S. commercial remote sensing industry, which offer powerful constellations of high-resolution Earth-observing satellites. Okay. At present, the detection of UAP is often serendipitous, captured by sensors that were not designed or calibrated for this purpose and which lack comprehensive metadata. Coupled with incomplete data archiving and curation, this means that the origin of numerous UAPs remain uncertain. The importance of detecting UAP with the multiple well-calibrated sensors is thus paramount, and accordingly, we recommend that NASA leverage its considerable expertise in this domain to potentially utilize multispectral and hyperspectral data as part of the rigorous data acquisition campaign. In turn, the panel finds that sophisticated data analysis techniques, including artificial intelligence and machine learning, must be used in comprehensive. Yeah, and they're going to use, that's pretty funny. They're going to use, here, this is, I got to share this one because this is pretty funny here. Okay, it'll be vital NASA be lending its UAP studies. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to skim this, guys. I'm trying to skim this here. In conclusion, NASA is uniquely positioned to contribute to a robust and systematic approach to studying UAP, furthering its mission and advancing scientific knowledge, technical expertise when considering the above recommendations and according. Okay, bullshit. All right, so here's the thing. It's kind of like we knew. NASA's basically saying that they'll take leadership on this, working alongside Aero. Okay, hold on a second. Here we go. A well-known, I think they're going to talk about the Go Fast videos. Okay. Let's take a look here. A well-known UAP event is the Go Fast video recorded by aviators from the USS Theodore Roosevelt. A still frame from this video is shown to figure below, where the infrared camera was locked onto a small object in the center. That video gives us impression of an object skimming above the ocean at great velocity, but analysis of the numerical information of the display reveals a less extraordinary interpretation. All right, so they're trying to debunk. The Go Fast video. Interesting that they're actually going. See, again, NASA. It seems to me. That. Hold on a second. Again, I'm all about science, so this is very interesting. And again, you could actually go on the NASA website and actually get the entire report. It's out now. Okay, it's out now. You can watch this entire thing, and it's, listen. Give me all the information. I love reading shit. I'm down for that. Okay, I'm just going here. Let me see. Blah 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 blah. In contrast, NASA observations are made well. So basically, they're saying that they need better equipment. They're going to need better equipment that's going to be calibrated specifically, okay, to look for UAP, okay? Give me a second, folks. Here, I'm going to try to go through here and see if they. Yeah, Will, I agree. They're going to try to debunk certain things, but see, you can't just debunk. And again, okay, yeah. So look at nothing. They're not going to be reporting anything that's groundbreaking. But I tell you, okay, NASA is the lead here. Let me just read this at the end. NASA is the lead agency for solar system exploration. It already has an active program of detecting objects in our solar neighborhood using both ground-based and space-based facilities. It could leverage those capabilities to search for objects in space with an anomalous motion or trajectories. For example, we're capable of launching spacecraft that can escape Earth's orbit and even escapes the sun's gravity. A more advanced civilization could be capable of building crafts that can travel much faster than the 45-kilometer per second escape velocity from Earth's orbit, or even 600 kilometers per second escape velocity from our galaxy. Interstellar travel would likely require such speeds that may entail travel of relativistic velocities. Searching for high velocity objects moving around our solar system is an example of high risk of failure, high value of return study. In addition to looking for anomalous velocities in a new and existing data sheet, search programs could target objects with unusual light curves, accelerations, spectral signatures, or other relevant anomalies. Yeah, man, I think you're right, Will. I think they're basically saying I need more money. Okay. And they're going to continue to, I don't want to say stonewall, but they're going to continue to try to, continue to. Here's the problem with this. And I know that they weren't going to get into what David Grush said a few weeks back. Right. And here's the thing too. I respect our military way too much, and I don't know if you guys remember the hearing that happened, about a month or two ago, where Matt Gaetz, from Florida, the politician from Florida, says that he was called in because he represents the area where Eglin Air Force Base is at, and he was asked to go. Some pilots wanted to talk to him, and so he took Tim Burchett and Representative Paula Rubio, or I forget her, Paula Luna. I'm sorry. I don't know all these politicians' names by heart. But they were stonewalled by the base commander, right? They were completely stonewalled by the base commander. And it's 7:00. So this should be going live. The moment it goes live, I'm going to shut up, folks. Okay. And I'm just going to let us watch this entire YouTube video or this presentation. It should be going live any second. We have it up on the screen. So the moment they go live, I'm going to be quiet. All right, folks. These pilots saw something. They took pictures of things. And, I still think NASA and the government is trying to not give us, they're trying to skim the surface of what they already know. To me, listen, I believe that there's been a cover up everywhere, all the way back from the whole Majestic 12 thing to Project Blue Book, right? It's all been BS. Okay, so that it should be going live any second, folks. Any second here. Let me just make sure that I haven't done anything. Oh, hold on. It is live, folks. So give me 1 second here. Just bear with me 1 second, folks. I'll be right back.
sightings. And much of that fascination is due to the unknown nature of it. Think about it. Most UAP sightings result in very limited data. That makes it even more difficult to draw scientific conclusions about the nature of UAP. And so this independent study team brought together some of the world's leading scientists, data, and artificial intelligence experts, aerospace safety specialists, all with
all right, guys, sorry for the technical difficulties. Here we go.
Which is to tell how to apply the full focus of science and data to UAP. And this is the first time that NASA has taken concrete action to seriously look into UAP. And this independent study team was just that, independent. Now, NASA has a statutory authority to look for life in the universe. And when you think of the universe, and especially what we have learned from the James Webb Space Telescope, how vast that it is. We knew before, and it was a NASA scientist, Dr. John Mather, who got the Nobel that determined that the universe was 13.8 billion years old.
So stay tuned, guys. I think the big thing here is going to be
accelerated in the last century.
Can you guys hear me?
We have an understanding that, of course, ours is not the only galaxy. And there are billions and billions of galaxies, and each of those galaxies, including our own,
that are there,
have billions and billions
I
of
think
stars.
the big one's going to be when these journalists
and with the James Webb looking at the exoplanets,
right? And I think that's the big one, because I see that James Fox, which he's a great filmmaker, is there. So some other journalists, and I'm sure they're going to hit these guys up pretty quick.
We will discover.
Alrighty, I'm going to shut up so we could listen to this, guys.
Another medium-sized stony planet around a medium-sized sun or star at just the right distance, not too far, not too close, with a tilt in its axis that rotates, that has carbon, that will have a habitable atmosphere. If you ask me, do I believe there's life in a universe that is so vast that it's hard for me to comprehend how big it is? My personal answer is yes. But I asked some of our scientists. As a matter of fact, the Washington Post editorial board asked us to come down to the question, what is the mathematical probability that there is life out there in the universe? And if you calculate in billions of stars, in billions of galaxies, that there's replicated what I just said, another stony planet. The answer was, what's the likelihood? At least 1 trillion. That's from our scientist. So we start this without any preconceived notions, but understanding that we're in a world of discovery. And we, NASA, have taken for the first time concrete action to seriously look into UAP. And this independent study team is exactly that. It's independent. They work to develop recommendations about how NASA could better examine them from a scientific perspective. And the top takeaway from the study is that there is a lot more to learn. The NASA independent study team did not find any evidence that UAP have an extraterrestrial origin, but we don't know what these UAP are. That's why I'm announcing that NASA has appointed a NASA Director of UAP Research. They are being tasked with developing and overseeing the implementation of NASA's vision for UAP research. We will use NASA's expertise to work with other
kind of like I said, right, folks?
to analyze
we're
UAP.
creating more bureaucracy.
We will use AI and machine learning.
We're asking for more bureaucracy. We're asking for more money so we could. Oh, what the heck happened here, folks? That's interesting. Wow. They literally bumped the channel. They ended the channel. I think they're having technical difficulties here. Let me see if I could reload. That's interesting. They literally, that's the direct. Okay, UAP. We're back. We're back.
On my travels, one of the first questions I often get is about these sightings. And much of that fascination is due to
there's a lot of people watching this live stream, folks.
Think about it. Most UAP sightings result in very limited data. That makes it even more difficult to draw scientific conclusions about the nature of UAP. And so this independent study team brought together some of the world's leading scientists, data, and artificial intelligence experts, aerospace safety specialists, all with a specific charge from me, which is to tell how to apply the full focus of science and data to UAP. And this is the first time that NASA has taken concrete action to seriously look into UAP. And this independent study team was just that, independent. Now, NASA has a statutory authority to look for life in the universe. And when you think of the universe, and especially what we have learned from the James Webb Space Telescope, how vast that it is. We knew before, and it was a NASA scientist, Dr. John Mather, who got the Nobel that determined that the universe was 13.8 billion years old. And over the years, particularly accelerated in the last century, we have an understanding that
still doesn't change the
ours
fact
is not the only galaxy.
And
there are billions and billions of
that
galaxies.
People in our government,
each of those galaxies, including our own,
technology. Now,
have billions
not addressing that. They're
stars.
specifically just addressing.
And with the James Webb looking at the exoplanets,
you know, they're just addressing the study of it,
beginning to discover. And somewhere out there, we will discover another medium-sized stony planet around a medium-sized sun or star at just the right distance, not too far,
the
not too
Goldilocks.
close.
Yeah, we know about
tilt
that.
In its axis that rotates, that has carbon, that will have a habitable atmosphere. If you ask me, do I believe there's life in a universe that is so vast that it's hard for me to comprehend how big it is? My personal answer is yes. But I asked some of our scientists. As a matter of fact, the Washington Post editorial board asked us to come down to the question, what is the mathematical probability that there is life out there in the universe? And if you calculate in billions of stars, in billions of
Did we
galaxies.
just go back, or am I
That
having
there's
deja vu here,
replicated
guys? Is
what
there a
I
glitch in the
just
matrix?
said, another stony planet. The answer was, what's the likelihood? At least 1 trillion.
Guys,
That's
so
from our
listen,
scientists.
we're having a glitch with the actual
So we start this
the actual NASA feed.
without any
Because they just
preconceived
basically
notions,
replayed. They're just
but
replaying the thing
understanding
that we've
that
already
we're in a
seen.
world
Bear with
of
me here a
discovery.
second, see if I could
And
fix
we have
the issue,
taken,
or if
we
it's something that
NASA have
NASA's
taken
having,
for the
because
first
we've
time
already heard this.
concrete
So just bear with
action
me 1 second,
to
folks.
seriously look
I'm gonna see
into
what the heck's
UAP.
going on with
And this
NASA.
independent study team is exactly
Literally, they're
that.
just looping.
It's independent.
Of UAP going forward.
Here we go.
The team's report, now available on NASA's website, stands as a testament to NASA's and the team's commitment to transparency.
Yeah, we're
to the power of science.
I don't know if they're
and to the unwavering
modeling
quest
or doing
for knowledge.
something kind of different here.
We at NASA believe that studying
so.
UAP represents an exciting step forward in our journey
Apologize
to
for that,
uncover
guys.
the mysteries of the world around us. By embracing a scientific lens,
Right. To make things easier,
we have
folks,
ensured that
I'm gonna
our
leave
work
this
is
live, but I'm going to
evidence-based
step
and
away
data-driven. And by valuing
we can focus on this.
transparency
All right, guys?
and openness,
Alrighty, we'll talk
we have
later.
aimed to foster trust and collaboration with the public. I'd like to conclude by extending my deepest gratitude to the team for their incredible dedication and service. Their efforts have been instrumental, and I truly appreciate the expertise and commitment that each of them have brought to this endeavor. And with that, I'll pass over to Dr. David Spergel, who chaired our study.
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to extend our sincere gratitude to the NASA administrator for entrusting us with this pivotal study. Your faith in our capabilities has been a driving force behind the panel's approach. The panel's comprehensive study into unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAP, has led to several crucial findings, and I'd like to elucidate on our methodology and those findings this morning. We began by rigorously assessing the current state of UAP data. Our goal was not to repeat the work of the Arrow, but to understand the nature of the reports. Our goal was to produce a roadmap for NASA to contribute to the understanding of the nature of UAP events. We looked at NASA's assets. While they provide a comprehensive picture of the ocean, the Earth's surface and atmosphere for studying our evolving planet, they typically do not have the resolution needed for UAP events. However, by providing data on environmental conditions, they can complement other data on UAP. The current approach to UAP data collection has led to a limited sample of events and limited data. Stigma has limited reporting by pilots, both civilian and military, so we know there's missing data. For its analysis in other areas, NASA always takes a scientific approach of systematic data collection that involves calibrating instruments, multiple measurements, and ensuring sensor metadata. Most UAP events lack this quality of data. One of NASA's contribution to the broader governmental effort to bring these methodologies to create a data set is to bring these methodologies to create a data set that's both reliable and extensive. And once we have a large sample of well-characterized events, AI and ML tools, which are proving to be powerful in so many other applications, will likely prove helpful in identifying interesting anomalies. It is essential to clarify, based on our current findings and methodology, that we find no evidence to suggest that UAP are extraterrestrial in origin. Our focus is on understanding the phenomenon, however, regardless of the source. And previous work from the ARROW has shown that most events are explainable as planes, balloons, drones, weather phenomena, and instrument features. And in any search for interesting anomalies, the first step is to eliminate the chaff of conventional events before moving on to identify novel phenomena. In this, the public's role cannot be overstated. The panel envisioned a framework that leverages crowdsourcing, possibly via smartphone applications, to capture a broader spectrum of data, ensuring more eyes and ears on the ground. Lastly, we delved into the safety concerns UAP present within U.S. airspace. By integrating UAP collection within our current aviation reporting system, the panel believes we can provide insights into potential safety risks. NASA can reduce the stigma associated with pilots reporting anomalies, and fundamentally, by studying events we don't understand, we advance our understanding. So in conclusion, with a rigorous methodology, collaborative efforts, public engagement, NASA can be a key player in the whole of government approach to understanding UAP. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of our speakers. We will start taking questions. For those in the room, we have a microphone over here that we would ask you to speak into. We will also be alternating with questions from those on the phone line. For those of you who are in the phone line, please press *1 to get onto the queue. We will try to answer as many as we can today. We'll see how it goes. Please, sir.
Thank you very much. This is directed to Mr. Nelson. Thank you for being here. Two quick questions. One is, how can we make the determination of what something isn't when we don't know what it is? And B, after a careful review of the data, if it's determined that some, underline the word some 10 times, UFOs or UAP originate from a non-human intelligence, what's the plan to disclose that to the public?
And can you identify yourself, please?
James Fox. Thank you.
I'm sorry, and what outlet?
Independent media. Thank you.
Well, let me repeat.
It's on.
Let me repeat what I said. I think it's important that you hear this word for word. The NASA independent study team did not find any evidence that UAP have an extraterrestrial origin, but we don't know what these UAP are. The mission of NASA is to find out the unknown. I've said several times in my comments here today that we, NASA, deal openly and we will be transparent on this. And we're trying to address the question of there's so much concern that there's something locked up, classified, and that the American government is not being open. Well, we are the American government and we are open, and we're going to be open about this. We don't, again, I'm going to repeat that statement, but we don't know what these UAP are, but we're going to try to find out.
Thank you very much. And is there a plan in place if it is determined that some of them represent or originate from a non-human intelligence to tell the public? Is there a plan? Or
if we are what I said we intend to be, which is transparent, you bet your boots, we will say that. And I've tried to set the table for you by telling you what I personally believe in a universe that is so vast that could there be a replication of life on Earth elsewhere in another solar system that is so big? Of course I believe that. The distances, it would have to be a very advanced civilization. The distances, light years, hundreds of light years, billions of light years. But whatever we find, we're going to tell you.
Thank
Great,
you very
well-
much.
Great. And we'll move on to the next question. Please do identify yourself.
Thanks. This is Joey Roulette from Reuters. Question for Bill Nelson or any of the other panelists. So you've appointed a director of UAP research. Have you named someone to that role? And what kind of investment are you considering making in this? Is this going to be a new program office? Have you thought of funding figures, et cetera? Thanks.
Yes, we have. We've already appointed the person. They've been working there for a while now, like during this study to help be a point of contact. And we any budget discussions, of course, are part of a very intricate federal budget request, and so they're not something that we discuss openly. But we will certainly look at what resources need to be allocated.
Can you name the official who's in
We
that
will
role?
not give his name out now.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. We'll take another one from in the room.
Hello, Dan Rivers from British broadcaster ITV News. I heard the word stigma mentioned several times, that you want to remove the stigma. Is your message to pilots and other people that this is no longer the preserve of cranks and that you won't be laughed at and that you will take them seriously? Is that the takeaway?
That is exactly the message. I mean, at NASA, we're scientists. We love data. We love all data. And if there is something that needs to be reported, and we want people to be able to feel that they can report that. We spoke in the open hearing that we had here just a few months ago. Dan, remind me when it was?
May 31st.
May 31st. And we actually talked then about we wanted to remove the stigma, and we also did not tolerate any of the abuse that some of our members of the panel were receiving, particularly on social media, for doing this really important scientific study. So absolutely, we want pilots and both, as Bill said, both private pilots, commercial pilots, military pilots to feel that if they see something, they need to report it.
I want to say, and I want to repeat the way I said it, we want to shift the conversation about UAPs from sensationalism to science.
I think of this in terms of the signs we see around for security, which say, if you see something, say something. I think in this context, we would summarize it as, if you see something, collect high quality data on it, because then we can learn.
If I may, I just noticed in the report the Go Fast incident was one that was picked out, and that had been held up as an example of a very credible sighting that you seem to be pouring doubt on. Can you just talk to that?
I mean, we looked at that as one example, and I think this is something that Arrow has actually done a very good job of going through the events. And most events are going to turn out, even if there are some events that in the end turn out to be something novel, most events are going to turn out to be conventional things, balloons, airplanes, and so on. I think of the process of discovery of anomalies as looking for a needle in a haystack. And if you want to find a needle in a haystack, you've got two choices. Either you know exactly what the needle looks like, and you design a very good filter to look for the needle. It's called match filtering in our in sort of AI work, machine learning, signal processing. Or you don't know what you're looking for. And with anomalies, that's really the case we're in. We're looking for things we don't understand. So if you want to find something strange in a haystack, you better know exactly what hay looks like. And you better be able to characterize that really well. And that's why in a process like this, and this is something that I think we bring to this as we look for anomalies, is you need to know what typical regular things look like under all conditions. You need to know what balloons look like when pilots see them, so under unusual conditions, so that you can eliminate those events. And that's why in identifying anomalies, understanding the normal is a very important part of it, and understanding that under different observing conditions and collecting data in a uniform way. I mean, this is what we do when we study anomalies in space science or other areas of science. And what we're trying to do is bring this approach to this field by saying collect high quality data, understand the normal events, and that's how we move things forward.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next question, please.
Hello, I'm Nomia Iqbal from BBC News. Just to follow up on the stigma question, UAP, that term has been, used in part to destigmatize UFOs. The fact is, most people use UFOs. Most of the American public, most of the world use that term. So I wonder how much is the stigma still a problem for you, and what are you practically doing to about it, really, to convince people? And my second very quick question, in your report, I noticed that you said AI is a very essential tool for identifying rare occurrences. Yesterday, we were at this big AI summit where you had 100 senators meeting all the big tech tycoons, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg. And speaking to some senators afterwards, they said, we are concerned about AI, we need it to be regulated. Does that concern you? Or are you worried that it might hamper your work? Thank you very much.
Well, two big questions. First of all, do I personally believe that AI needs to have some boundaries? The answer to that, for our existentialism, yes. Can you do that within the appropriate bounds so that, as I said in my remarks, that we're going to utilize AI as one of the tools as we search for what is an answer to the UAP. And so, no, I don't think that any attempts that the Congress has underway to try to write a law that would appropriately put guardrails around AI for other reasons is in any way going to inhibit us from utilizing the tools of AI to help us in our quest on this specific issue. Now, what was your other question?
Just how do you destigmatize the whole thing? Because I know you call it UAPs, but people don't refer it to in that way.
Yeah. Well, there's a mindset. We all are entertained by Indiana Jones in the Amazon and finding the crystal skull. So there's a lot of folklore out there. That's why we entered the stage, the arena, to try to get into this from a science point.
I think you can blame the X-Files for a lot of this as well.
That possibly too, but just remember what I said. We NASA are trying to shift it from sensationalism to science.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
And we do have a long line in the room, but I want to give a couple chances to some people on the phone line. So I'm going to go to the phone for our first question there. Please do introduce yourself and ask your question. The phone, can you hear me?
Our first question is from Marcia Dunn with the Associated Press. Your line is open.
Yes, hi, Marcia Dunn, AP. I'm already receiving emails on Area 51 in Roswell, so I would like to ask Mr. Spergel, how much were you and your fellow panel members hassled or bombarded by this sort of thing during the course of your study? And for NASA, are you not naming the director of UAP research for this very reason, so that they're not hassled and bombarded by the fringe element? Thanks.
No, I would divide kind of emails and tweets into two types, right? There's some where people honestly are curious about things they've seen, they've heard. There are things that are hard to respond to, like my uncle who's dead saw something strange, and you get a report. And that's not useful, but that's harmless. On the other hand, one of the things that happened during the study, and this may be part of a bigger discussion of cultural behavior on social media, where people behaved badly, and I would say harassed some of our panel members. And that, I think, was very inappropriate behavior one doesn't want to see. Sadly, I think it's part of a deeper problem when people somehow feel on the web, on social media, they can be nasty and hostile, and sadly, some of our panel members experience that.
Yeah, I would just simply add to that to say that not only were some of the things that our panel members received during the course of this study simple trolling, some of them actually rose to actual threats. And as a result, we at NASA take the sanctity of the scientific process and the security and safety of our team extremely seriously. And yes, that's in part why we are not splashing the name of our new director out there, because science needs to be free. Science needs to undergo a real and rigorous and rational process, and you need the freedom of thought to be able to do that. Some of the threats and the harassment have been beyond the pale, quite frankly, towards some of our panelists. And yes, it's important that science be free as part of that process.
Thank you so much. We will go to another question on the phone, please. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Our next question comes from Tom Clark with Sky News London. Your line is open.
Oh, hi there. Thank you very much for taking my question. I want to understand how much, you won't give us an idea of money, but how many assets or new research programs will be devoted to this by the administration. Because it strikes me that although the argument for aviation safety is clear, there are other departments and agencies responsible for that particular thing. And as the report concludes, the likelihood of there being extraterrestrial explanations or truly scientific explanations for many of these phenomena is very, very small. Shouldn't NASA devote its research budgets and its efforts to those much more likely and tangible signs of extraterrestrial life through things like the James Webb Space Telescope or extrasolar planets detection?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So yes, obviously we don't discuss budget openly, but we are committed to supporting the whole of government study into UAP. All of our data are open. In fact, if you look at the report, you'll see a very large sort of background material or supplemental material in there, because we literally released everything because that's what we do at NASA. We do have our key agency goals. We have obviously our goals in the Science Mission Directorate, our themes that we follow, and one of those, as the administrator described, is the search for life elsewhere. And we do that, and he described the research beautifully. I think he may be going for my job, actually, but he described the research so well that what we need to find is a rocky planet around a hospitable star that isn't too violent, that is in just that right place, that has signatures of water and signatures of carbon, so the building blocks of life. And we continue to strive to do that. We do that with the James Webb Telescope. We'll be doing that when we launch the Nancy Grace Roman Telescope that even has a coronagraph around it to block out the light of the neighboring stars and really let us look at those possible planets. And then beyond that, the next big telescope recommended by the Astrophysics Decadal is the Habitable Worlds Observatory, actually a mission designed to look for hospitable and find like Earth 2.0 in another stellar system. And so they really are in the forefront of our goals at NASA. So thanks so much for the question.
I'm going to ask.
Just jump in to clarify something. Will you be devoting any new resource or research projects to this particular aim then, given that's where the interesting questions really are? Should NASA spend time and budget pursuing the much less likely task of finding signs of extraterrestrial life in small objects within or close to the Earth's atmosphere?
So, I mean, most of our, obviously our instruments are designed to look for the phenomena that we study at NASA. If any of our data are useful, if any of our data are applicable, then we absolutely will be devoting that and turning that over through our liaison to the whole of government approach. We are not at this time intending to design a mission to do this. That is not part of our kind of overarching NASA direction. We are looking at providing some research support. So if somebody wants to write a research proposal, send it in through the regular channels. We will be looking for ways to do that. And we also talked about supporting sort of the citizen science and the broader like repository of data. Dan, do you want to add to that?
NASA's data are free and publicly accessible for the entire world to download. And we pride ourselves on that fact. And it's this openness of data and our approach, which is why we're all here today. To answer your specific question about devoting research budgets to the potentially truly interesting ones, well, I think as David said, you have to understand the chaff in order to really understand and pinpoint the potentially interesting ones, okay? So we are in such a data poor regime at the moment that we need to turn it into a data rich one to do that. And we employ NASA's assets, many other partners' assets as well in that quest.
And if your question suggests, and I do not know that it does, but if it suggests that NASA ought to keep its nose out of this, well, let me tell you, NASA is not a place that's going to hide its head in the sand. Now, is there interest in this phenomenon in other agencies? In my previous life in the Senate, I was privy to talk to the Navy pilots and to see the video of what they encountered off the coast of California in 2004. That was in a classified setting then. But this is now, and you have now seen that video, and you have heard from those former Navy pilots. Is that of a concern to the Department of Defense? Of course it is. Therefore, we're going to continue our search from a scientific point of view. It's going to be, if those other agencies continued their search, we're going to be glad to join in with them. But our stuff is going to be open.
Great. I'm going to take one more from the phone before we go back to the floor. We have a lot of questions. I'm going to hope we can stick to sort of one per person and see how many we can get through. So one more from the phone, please.
Our next question comes from Jeff Faust with Space News. Your line is open.
Hi. I know the press release states that NASA is still evaluating the independent study team's report and its recommendations. Does NASA plan to publish a formal response to the report and its recommendations? And if so, what timeline can we expect to see that?
So let me give you a quick preview about how this works. So we have only very, very recently received the report, and what you have seen today in our press release represents our initial actions in recognition of the urgency of this matter. And yes, we will be following up as appropriate with additional actions, yes, the recommendations, and act on them in light of budget and many other priorities. But we'll be announcing more in the future.
Great, thank you. Please, back to the room. Identify yourself too, please.
Good morning, Sam Cabral with BBC News Digital. We've been talking a lot about shift from sensationalism to science today. Has NASA been in touch with the Mexican authorities about the rather sensational revelations earlier this week of 2 allegedly non-human corpses? And what, if any, importance do you attach to these discoveries?
I think David had a prep for that one.
Well, this is something that I know I've only seen on Twitter. So it's, when you have unusual things, you want to make data public. I think of this as like NASA has one of the most valuable samples from outer space, lunar rocks. What do? We make them available to any scientists who want to work on this. We don't know the nature of those samples that were shown in front of them. If I was the Mexican government, I would are making recommendations to the Mexican government. That's not our charge here. We're doing this for NASA. My recommendation was, if you have something strange, make samples available to the world scientific community, and we'll see what's there.
I'll just add that one of the main goals of what we're trying to do here today is to move conjecture and conspiracy towards science and sanity. And you do that with data, as David says. And that's the whole purpose of this study and this roadmap.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Brandy Vincent from Defense Scoop. Thank you all for doing this. I actually have 2 lines of questions, if it's okay. First, for Ms. Fox, what's the timeline and immediate actions that NASA is pursuing specifically with ARROW now that the report has been completed? And what mechanisms are NASA and DoD really using to share information and collaborate securely? And do you see more coming? And then separately, for Mr. Spergel, I noticed in the final report, a lot of the images and media that were added were from DoD, snapshots that we'd previously seen from DoD data. Not much from FAA, if anything, not from other agencies. Can you speak to why that is and what all you used beyond DoD to inform your report?
Dr. Fox, Dr. Spergel, I'll pass it to you guys.
Sure. So, yes, our immediate actions, I think there was such a lot in those questions. So the immediate actions, we've established our director of UAP research. They're working across the whole of government. They're working very closely with ARROW. They are the sort of central point for all of the collaboration. I'm not sure what else you asked, I'm sorry.
What mechanisms are you using to share data and information with the Defense Department?
All mechanisms available to us. As Dan eloquently said, all of our data are open and public. So actually, I mean, we share everything with everybody. So everybody can access our NASA data.
I mean, do you have like a specific repository or mechanism or channel specifically with DoD where you're sharing information? Can you just expand a little on how ARROW and DoD are working, ARROW and NASA are working so deeply to share things?
Sure, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure, I'm happy to handle that. So as Nikki beautifully said, all of NASA's data is open and accessible to the public. If DoD on a specific instance need to tap our expertise, then there are obviously secure ways of doing that, and we've done that by appointing our liaison officer. And yes, we know how to talk to DoD in a classified space. But again, most of what we do is unclassified, and for good reason.
And the answer is actually straightforward, that ARROW is the lead agency in the government. So FAA reported events go to ARROW. So they're the central collection agency. And that actually, if you go to the ARROW site, they have a pretty complete list of things they've analyzed and are trying to make public. Though with ARROW, and this is just something I think is worth repeating in the context of looking at images that come from military satellites and intelligence community. It's important to remember that images taken by military instruments are classified, not because of what's in the image, but because of the nature of the measuring instrument. And I think this is one of the unique things that NASA brings here, is NASA is about openness and transparency. When NASA makes measurements, NASA has across all of it does, this program of making its data open and available. And of course, because it's not making measurements with classified instruments, that enables it to do this. And that one of the things that NASA brings to this space.
Thank you. And just a really quick clarification, because I think it's important. The NASA ARROW liaison, is that official the same as your new UAP head of research?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, one more in the room before we go back to the phones for a couple.
Thank you. My name is Jacob Jensen. I work for a Danish newspaper called Berlingske. My question is for Mr. Nelson. You said at the beginning of the meeting that that NASA will be transparent. Well, a month and a half ago, Mr. David Grush said under oath in Congress that the US government is in possession of UAPs and extraterrestrial life. How can you be sure at NASA that other parts of the US government is being transparent?
I don't speak for other parts of the government, but I can tell you NASA, which I speak for, is open and transparent with our data.
Do you believe what Mr. David Grush said, or is he lying?
You would want me to give a personal opinion?
Yes, please.
Of what he said. What he said, if I recall having seen this on the nightly news, was that he had a friend that knew where a warehouse was that had an UFO locked up in a warehouse. He also said he had another friend that said that he had parts of an alien. Whatever he said, where's the evidence? Is my response.
Excuse me. He also said that he did interview over 40 employees at the Pentagon.
Long time ago, there was a TV show, Jack Friday, and he used to say, just the facts, just the facts. Show me the evidence.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we will go to the phones. Again, I know people have lots of questions, but I'm going to try to keep us to just to one for each person. And so next person on the phone, go ahead and introduce yourself.
The next question comes from Gina Cesari with ABC News. Your line is open.
This is for Senator Nelson. Your report mentioned that AI could be very useful in helping in this investigation. How do you see that, sir?
Well, why limit us in anything in interpretation of data? And AI is just coming on the scene to be explored in all areas. So why should we limit any technological tool in analyzing data that we have? I said AI was one of the things that we were going to employ.
I mean, we use AI or artificial intelligence and machine learning throughout our NASA science portfolio. It is an amazing tool for helping us to actually find often signatures that are sort of buried in data. And so a lot of our data are just sort of wiggly line plots. We get excited about wiggly line plots, by the way, but sometimes you see the wiggles and you miss a signal in there. And by using artificial intelligence, we can often find signatures. So one example we've had is to be able to find signatures of superstorms using very old data that really is before sort of like routine scientific satellite data, and it's amazing. And so just being able to use those techniques often can allow us to find things, to actually find the needle. As David so eloquently said, once you've actually really it also helps us to really characterize the hay. And so you can start subtracting the hay and look for the needles behind.
So let me just take this moment to try to demystify AI and ML.
Thank you.
When, as scientists, and probably many of you in high school were trained to do this, we had some data. You took your data, you drew a graph, you put a line through it. You had data in 2 dimensions, X and Y. Right now, much of our data is in a much higher dimensional space. And if you're working with something like ChatGPT, it's in a high dimensional space of language, or tokens, if you want to get technical, with 12,000 tokens in the ChatGPT 3.5, for example. And machine learning is a powerful tool for representing functions in high dimensional space. That means we get to work with data in a high dimensional space. AI is very powerful, but it's no more powerful than the data you give it. It's a way of, this is why it's very powerful, say, with NASA's weather and climate data. We've got an incredible amount of data, and it's data that you want to do more with than just put a line on a graph. You want to extract all that information or more information in that high dimensional space. And I think we're just really discovering the power of that tool. And it's one of the tools NASA and not just scientists, but I think a lot of people in a lot of different industries are using to learn new things about high dimensional data. But it always comes back to the data you feed into your analysis, whether it's a line on a graph paper or a high dimensional space explored with machine learning. And if you don't got good data, you're not going to learn things.
I'm going to add one sentence. Sorry. High dimensional does not mean high space dimensions, not interdimensional travel. We're talking about multiple parameters here. Okay. Karen.
Great. We are coming close to time. I want to get 2 more questions in. We're going to do one on the phone and one more in the room. And hopefully if we keep our questions short and our answers short, we'll get to those 2. For anybody who's here who hasn't had a chance to ask a question, you are more than welcome to send an email and we will try to get you questions answers as quickly as possible. So one more on the phone, please.
Yes, our next question comes from Peggy Holliger with Financial Times. Your line is open.
Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to ask a question. I'm curious about you saying here that you want to rope in crowdsourcing, but also you speak specifically about the potential of using commercial assets as well as your own. I'm curious about, can you just give me a bit more detail how you will do that? Will that be through commercial contracts, or will you ask for voluntary reportings of sightings? And also, I think that's when you talk a lot about the importance of sensor, I'm going to use the word harmonization, because there's no kind of harmonization between the way the sensors work. Presumably that would be the same for the use of commercial assets. How does that use of commercial assets and crowdsourcing square with the sensor harmonization that you talk about? And who's going to pay for all this? Thank you.
So let me just say a little bit about crowdsourcing. Much of what we have in mind is taking advantage of the fact that there's several billion of these floating around, right? And they take, I'm holding up a cell phone for those on the radio. They take wonderful, high quality images, have high quality metadata, record local magnetic field, sound, gravitational field. There's a wealth of data that a cell phone takes, and you can imagine designing apps that make the images relatively tamper-free. You can at least make it hard to do. And I think if we have a collection where interesting events are collected by citizens, hosted, and you have multiple images of the same event, we will be able to learn a lot. And, one of the things NASA supports is citizen science. And I think that the idea that if you see something you don't understand, collect data, we aggregate the data and we learn from it, is important in this context. And just, I think in some ways, an opportunity to engage the broader public in doing science.
Great. Our last question, please, from the floor.
Thank you all for doing this. Joe Khalil with News Nation. My first question is, you've described harassment of some of the panelists. While that is horrible and never a good thing, it does sort of come with the nature of public officials. Mr. Nelson, as senator, lawmakers get that kind of thing all the time. Is that the justification for keeping this new position, director of UAP research, private? Do you plan on doing that forever? Is that a temporary thing? Because it seems to cut against the dedication to being open and transparent if this person forever is not going to be revealed, their identity, who they are.
Yeah, okay. So at the time, yes, we are withholding that name. Let's not forget that we've only just received this report. And what we need to do now as an agency is come together and provide a cohesive and coherent response to it that addresses multiple findings and recommendations. Okay, we're only announcing initial actions today. Will that person's name be disclosed, to answer your specific question? Potentially, yes. But again, we need to ensure that the scientific process and method is free. Okay, that's my response.
Thank you. And just lastly, the report says that you relied on unclassified material You've given a very understandable description for why the DoD classifies certain images and videos. Why did you all not have access to classified material, and could you have, done that?
I have. So just understand that. Let the committee speak for themselves.
So one of the reasons that we restricted ourselves, this study, to unclassified data is because we can speak openly about it. And in so doing, we're aiming again to alter the discourse from sensationalism to science, as Administrator Nelson beautifully said. NASA personnel, as appropriate, know how to talk to DoD on a classified basis, but the purpose of this study was to tell us what open data we could use in combination with the power of science to move our understanding forward. Okay, that was the purpose, and we're speaking about it openly today.
And so one of the challenges
I'm afraid we do have to wrap up. We are at time. So thank you, everybody, for being here today. Again, for those people who were not able to get questions, I do apologize for not doing it in the room. However, please send an email based on our press release. You will have information to access, and we will try to get you the answers we can. And with that, we're concluding today's press briefing, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
It's a new era of pioneers, star sailors, thinkers, and adventurers.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
Let's go.
We have been given the scientific knowledge, the technical ability, and the material to pursue the exploration of the universe.
I'm Christina Cook. I'm a mission specialist.
I'm Jeremy Hansen. I'm a mission specialist. I'm Victor Glover. I'm the pilot. I'm Reed Wiseman. I'm the commander for the Artemis II mission to the moon.
To the moon.
To the moon. To the moon.
When I was young, I had a poster of the Earthrise picture, the famous picture that was taken on Apollo 8. And the fact that it was a human behind the lens that made that picture so profound and changed how we all thought of our own home was so amazing to me. The moon is not just a symbol of thinking about our place in the universe. It's not just a symbol of exploration. It's actually a beacon for science. It's a beacon for understanding where we came from.
You know, pushing ourselves to explore is just core to who we are. It's a part of being a human. That's our nature. We go out there and we explore to learn about where we are, why we are, understanding the big questions about our place in the universe. The exploration we're doing is the first few steps on the path of getting humans to Mars.
The Artemis campaign of missions have set such an ambitious goal for humanity that it's inspiring contributions from around the globe. Not just one nation is inspired and moved by this, but nations from around the globe are coming together. When I look at the Artemis II crew with Victor, Christina, and Jeremy, they want to go do this mission. They are keenly driven. They are humble to a fault. It is so cool to be around them. Artemis II is a huge mission, but I hope we will look back and realize that this was one tiny step in humans on Mars and a sustained presence on our moon.
Before steam engines start.
Artemis 2 will be NASA's first crewed flight test of the Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft around the moon,
to verify today's capabilities for humans to explore deep space
and pave the way for NASA's long-term human and scientific presence on the lunar surface.
We are ready.
We are going to the moon for all humanity. We are Artemis.
We are going. The history of this agency is marked with broken barriers, once viewed as impossible, with science fiction turned reality, with innovations that have spun industries all their own, and with demonstrations of peace for all humankind.
We soar in the skies of our home planet. We maintain a human presence just outside of gravity, and we touch points all across the solar system and beyond. We're going back to the moon, and this is why.
The moon is a treasure trove of science. It holds opportunities for us to make discoveries about our home planet, about our sun, and about our solar system.
The wealth of knowledge to be gleaned from the moon will inspire a new generation of thought and action.
Without fail, every major program and mission NASA has invested in has led to technologies and capabilities that have shaped our culture.
The breakthroughs of the Artemis era will define our generation and the generations to follow.
The tens of thousands of jobs associated with propelling us to the moon today are just the beginning of a lunar economy that will see hundreds of thousands of new jobs develop around the world.
This is not an ambition of one entity or one country. The exploration of the moon is a shared effort,
Woven together by a desire for the greater good.
Why the moon? Because the missions of tomorrow will be sparked by the accomplishments of the Artemis generation today.
Because the ambition to go has already begun.
And because Mars is calling. We need to learn what it takes to establish a community on another cosmic shore. So let's camp close before pushing out.
And so, we go to the moon now, not as a series of isolated missions, but to build a community on and around the moon capable of proving how to live on other worlds.
We'll use the lessons from more than 50 years of peaceful exploration to send a new generation to the lunar surface to stay.
We will anchor our efforts on the lunar South Pole to establish the Artemis Base Camp,
positioning us for long-term science and exploration of the lunar surface.
We will prove what it takes to assemble a complex ship in deep space.
We will perfect descending down to and returning from a distant surface.
We will learn how humans can survive and thrive in a partial gravity environment.
With improved spacesuit designs, mobile habitats, and with reconnaissance robots pre-positioning and relocating supplies.
We will learn how to utilize the resources we find on these other worlds, starting with finding water ice and purifying it to drinkable water.
And refining that into hydrogen for fuel and oxygen to breathe.
We will establish fission power plants on the surface of the moon, capable of supporting a growing community of efforts.
And we will expand the logistics supply chain
to enable commercial and international partners
to resupply and refuel deep space outposts.
None of this is simple or easy, but nothing in our history ever has been.
The Eagle has landed. We got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
This kind of continuous lunar presence is a natural extension of all that we've learned in low Earth orbit. And what we will accomplish there will ensure the monumental missions to Mars are within reach. As we ready the launch of the first Artemis mission, and as commercial companies ready their lunar landers for the first private payload deliveries, we have already begun to take the next step.
Let us continue to dream the impossible dream that now becomes real.
Space is for everyone.
We humans really are connected to the universe.
The Earth's climate is changing. We have documented the changes.
And liftoff. Starliner is headed back to space on the shoulders of Atlas.
The Artemis generation stands to return humanity to the moon and then to take us further.